Hi, it is a second line day, or it's nearly a second line day. We go into the line 2 at 11:30 tonight, GMT. It's a beautiful day here today. It feels very spring-like. We've got lots of birds singing their mating calls, and we've got tulips coming up in the garden, and well, it's really pretty. I wanted to share that with you. The second line, it can be completely unaware of the way in which others see it. It's part of a big projection field, and sometimes this is what happens. The analogy is often of that of a house. That's what we use in human design, and we'll say that in the basement is where the first lines are hanging out. They've got some kind of laboratory down there, and they're doing all their investigations and all that kind of thing. The second line is at ground level, and the way that we describe it is that the second line is in their room and all the lights are on. It's dark outside, but they haven't closed the curtains, and so everybody can see in, but they can't see anybody outside of their own sphere. So people are looking in and they're like, whoa, what's going on in there? And they're projecting on what they're seeing, that it's either perfect or that they've got something really special going on in there. And that's then what the second line has to deal with. So maybe you're just doing something very mundane, like you're in there ironing, and somebody's looking in through the window and say, wow, I really like the way you iron your shirts. Have you ever thought about maybe doing that professionally? And that might seem like a bit of a strange example, but anything, the second line can have all sorts of things projected upon it that it's really good at, and that can cause some really interesting dilemmas for the second line, especially if they have an open ego, for example, and so they are all about trying to prove themselves and making sure that people see them as being worthy. That could tap into something like, oh, an ironing, oh yeah, that could provide a really worthy service for people. I'd be so valuable to society if I was doing something like that. So that could be one thing. Or possibly the G center could be open. And if you have no inherent direction yourself, and you happen to admire this person who said to you how good you are at ironing shirts, then maybe that open G of yours is going to tap into that. And off you'll go in a whole different direction that may or may not be healthy for you to go in. So this is why it's so important that we educate our second lines from as young as possible, really, because they do need to know how to recognize in themselves what other people are likely to be projecting onto them. And then, of course, how to respond correctly to that and not just get pulled into something just because they've been recognized. Ra says that the 2 is here to be called. This is what life is about. The call comes in many different ways. The call of love and work and so off. He didn't say that. He said, and so forth and so on. But you're here to be called. That was Ra on the second line. So the 17-2, this is the gate that we're here to talk about, the line that we're here to talk about, and it's called discrimination. Above the lines for all of gate 17, it says, the ancient law that those who wish to rule must know how to serve. And Ra tells us that everything about this gate is either about ruling or serving, with neither one being better or worse than the other. There's no judgment here on any of this, So you can look at your own design and your own experience, and you can ask yourself, are you waiting to be invited or asked or initiated before you serve up your opinions? Are you trying to rule and impose your opinions on other people? And this is something that you could just keep in the back of your mind as we're exploring these lines of gate 17. Now there is a lifetime learning here. The benefit of associations based on the highest values. It's lifetime learning because it can take a long time to learn which associations have value, or even what your opinion of the highest value is to begin with, The second line is always being projected on. other people's opinions and values always coming at them. You know, you're such a good dancer. Have you thought of going to dance school? This may not seem to be a big deal, but truly when you look at through the lens of your openness or your conditioning and all of that kind of thing, it can be. And there's not anything wrong with it, of course. This is something that's so important to keep remembering always. There's nothing wrong with this, but how are you meeting it? Are you meeting it as yourself and allowing that projection to sink in and to see if it resonates, see if the recognition, you know, what does your inner authority say about that? Or are you conditioned to respond in that, oh, thank you, yes, let me go and find a dance school near me and I'll do that immediately. I'm a second line myself, and I have to say that the majority of things I've done in my life have been because of people have steered me in that direction. I have an open G center. It's part of my mechanic. And again, I mean, I've learned some amazing things by doing what I've done. I've got a whole life experience behind me because I did aromatherapy and I did yoga teaching and I did a cookery course and I did a chef's course. I did all of these things because I was told I was good at them, and wow, couldn't you do something with this in your life? So this is the sort of the path of the second line, especially with the open G. And all of these keynotes, they all come together and they all make a beautiful story as the story of us. You know, it's a lot of fun to start putting it together, even though some of it you can look back on and go, oh, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? Or you can link it to the person who directed you and see what it was, and but it's all part of the journey, isn't it? It's all part of the process. The exaltation says the successful achievement of purpose through proper alignment, the possibility to develop opinions through relationships. So the second line, they don't really have any opinions. We can't be bothered with any of that stuff. You know, you've got the first line doing its thing in the basement. Excellent. We really need people who are going to dig into the foundation of things, tell us how everything works. The second line is like, yeah, okay, thank you. I'm really happy here on my own, doing my own thing. And I have absolutely, I mean, the desire is for other things than making opinions about things. And yet still it might be projected onto me that I have an opinion about something, or that I have some really good opinions, or that, you know, that it can be part of the projection field in this 17th gate. So it's something you could sit with. Is this an experience that's coming to you either because you have a second line in your profile, or you have gate 17, or any combination of any of that, or just because it's in the transit? Are you feeling that? Are you finding yourself projecting onto other people? Because it all plays out both ways, you know, of course. There might be some pressure to have an opinion about something over the next 24 hours or so, and then to put it out there. It's a projected gate. You know, are you going to wait to be invited before you share your opinions? Because as valuable as they may be, if you haven't been invited, or there isn't that 62 that's giving you access to the throat there, then your opinions may really not hit home. They may then, in that case, have no value to anybody else. So the second line, yeah, lower trigram, not triangle. It's definitely lower trigram. Those lower three lines, they're not sociable. They're really not. You know, the first line just wants to be studying away, digging into its foundation, and it, you know, and I say a laboratory in the basement, but it's that kind of feeling of something. You know, it doesn't have to be, of course, obviously, an actual laboratory in the basement, although it could be. And the second line really also just wants to be left alone in its hermitage to get on with whatever it wants to get on with. And the third line also not terribly sociable, although starting to get a feel for it because they're bumping into people. So they're starting to feel that there are other people around. So the successful achievement that's mentioned in this exaltation, it comes through proper alignment. And that takes us back to the mantra of human design. You know, it's know your type, follow your strategy and your authority. Relationships have to be entered into correctly through the mechanics of design, you know, or the door's going to bang. hold on a minute, or maybe not. Relationships entered into correctly through the mechanics of our design. That's what I was going to say. You know, in proper alignment, it really comes through following our strategy and authority. Now, the detriment says an overactive discrimination that leaves one virtually alone. So this is the possibility of being opinionated at the expense of relationships. And we know that second lines like to be alone. They are also the line of denial. You know, so the gate 17 in the second line is saying, I don't need your opinions, leave me alone. And it can also be very disturbing to them that other people are projecting on them that they have an opinion. Yeah? Second lines are not sociable. They don't really want to be called out. They need to be called out. You know, we have all these gifts like all the other lines do. For us, we need to be called out in order to share them. Left to our own devices, we'd still be, you know, just sitting in our room ironing. Actually, I don't do an awful lot of ironing. I'm not a very good second line. Yeah, so pull them out. Give them a call. Give them a call. But is it comfortable for them to be called out? Is it correct for them? And that's something that only they can know. And they can only know that through type, strategy, and authority. Again. Now, the 18 line 2, this is fun. This is a line that's called terminal disease. And this can really freak some people out, especially if it's in their personality sun, because all of that word prejudice gets projected onto this line. There's a lifetime recognition here. The recognition that what has been spoiled is irreversible. So this is telling us the true nature of what terminal disease is. It's just recognizing that something is broken to the point where fixing it is, what's the point? It's so broken. And that's fine. It's, again, not a judgment. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong. So one of the keynotes then for the second line, as we've heard before, is called discernment. Okay, so we had discrimination in the 17.2, but discernment is also a big part of the second line's process. You have to discern whether or not you're being recognized. Well, recognize, of course, if you're a projector, but you have to be able to see what you're being called out for. Recognize whether that call is correct. That's really where the recognition for the second line comes in. Is that call correct for you to answer? Is that projection accurate? You could even say that way. So what we're looking at here is the gift of knowing what can and can't be corrected or challenged. Remember, we have this challenge to authority in the 18th gate. And there's also a recognition that not everything needs to be corrected. You know, it's perfectly fine that some things are not here to be corrected, that they can just stay broken. It's fine. It's not necessarily good or bad. It's simply how it is, you know. And we can look at the genetic continuity and say that's discrimination, which is in the 17.2. One of the keynotes for an open splenic center is that you can't let go of things that are no longer good for you. So having this 17.2 in an open splenic center could be quite an interesting dynamic for you to work through. Because really this is saying, let it go. Well, let it go. Doesn't work. Not important. It's not of value to the collective. It's never going to be of value to the collective. Let it go. But there is something in this, comes through sometimes in the detriment side, that it can't let it go. Just can't let it go. And so tie that in with the rest of maybe the mechanic that's going on in the design, and you've got that open splenic center, and that can really trip you up and give you something else to learn. Or maybe you've got an open sacral center and you don't know when enough is enough. You don't know when to stop putting the effort in and the energy in to make something work, or to point out to other people that, hey, this needs correcting. Can we please correct this? And then, yeah, I think it's past the point of correction, actually. But yeah, it's just tying that all in and seeing the patterns, and does it actually have any resonance to your life or any relationship to anything that you've been through? Or maybe in 10 years' time, something will happen and you'll go, do you know, I remember something about this, about letting something go that really doesn't work and is never going to work. What was it I heard? And you can come back and you can bring it into your life experience at that point. So yeah, letting go of things when they're no longer of value to the collective. This is collective, and that's what correcting the pattern is all about. So moon-wise, we already looked at the 46 when we did the first line, and we will be in that. I think we're probably in it now when I'm posting this. There's another moon transit, and that's early tomorrow morning as far as GMT goes, at 4:28 a.m. when the moon wanders into gate 18, which we've just been talking about. So maybe there'll be a little bit of extra correction in the air. You never know, a bit of extra energy to try and fix things. That could be floating around for the next sort of 22 hours. Maybe there'll be a desire to fix things or not. Maybe there'll be a recognition of something in your life that, okay, I'm never going to fix that one, I'm going to let it go. So that's where we are for now. The sun transits into line 3 next of gate 18, and that's just after 10 p.m. tomorrow. So I will see you, come back for that one later. Have a beautiful day wherever you are, whatever the weather is doing. I'll see you again soon.